So here we go. Today's training is applicable to anyone, but I'm really specifically addressing new brands, like brands that are less than 5 years old. That's the idea of today's training. We have quite an assortment of people attending today. We have wine producers, spirits, mead, beer, ready to drink. I'm probably missing a few other things from all around the world. Iceland, the UK, Netherlands, Argentina, Canada, South Africa, Italy, and even Louisiana. That's a joke. And for those of you who are on here from New Orleans, that's just my little Louisiana humor. It's like another country. We've got people on here who have not even yet launched their brands. And for you, this is going to be gold. It's actually going to be gold for everybody here. But I think especially those of you who have not yet launched, you're going to really benefit quite a bit from this. Well, why don't we take just a minute, and would you please introduce yourself in the chat? What's your name and the type of your brand? What type of brand or the name of your brand? That would be fine too. That would be just fine if you wanted to do that. So here we go. It's a good thing you're here, and it's often that we don't stop and look at these numbers, but it's just pretty mind-boggling. I grabbed this data from VinePair where it shows the number of wineries in the US. Now, this doesn't include import brands, and it doesn't include spirits. I'm going to talk about spirits in a second. But look at this insane growth in the number of wineries. I mean, look at Texas. In 2018, Texas had 588 wineries. So today they have 947, more than Oregon. I mean, it's tough trying to compete with 1,000 other wineries that weren't even here, 3 years ago. So these are really crazy difficult times. In the whole US, we've gone from 12,000 wineries to over 16,000. That's a 33% increase. And this isn't really slowing down all that much. I think it's even worse for the distilleries, the rate of growth. Now, I couldn't find any current data on the number of distilleries by state. I searched and searched, but I found this, which is scary enough from 3 years ago. When you consider, 47 distilleries in Florida, 106 in Washington. It is just crazy. And this does not include imports. So here's what you're up against. And let me just check the chat real fast. There's a couple of things in here. Will presentation be made available to the audience? Yes, I'm going to send you a link to the recording of this presentation for those of you who attended and those who weren't able to come in live. Okay, I'm so glad you're here, Hannah, to help me manage this chat because it's already covered up. Anyway, back to our program. Here's what you're up against. Intense competition, especially with the biggest brands. These big brands don't want to give up an inch of market share, and they're going to spend a fortune and deploy their people to keep you from getting their market share. So it's very much a David and Goliath story. The playing field has changed a lot just in the last 5 years. And so you really have to keep up. Most people are running plays out of an outdated playbook, and I'm talking about a sales playbook here. We're going to get into this. Wine, thanks to the pandemic, restaurants have really cut back on their inventory. So you have smaller cocktail menus, smaller wine lists, which makes it even more difficult to get your products into distribution. Retailer consolidation, the big chains are getting bigger. The little guys are getting squeezed out. And of course, distributor consolidation. We're down to less than 700 distributors in the country after having a peak of about 3,500. And it just keeps consolidating more and more. You're also up against this last thing, which is so key, which is a lot of well-meaning but bad advice. I remember when I first got into motorcycling, advice came out of the woodwork, mostly from people who had never ridden a motorcycle. All they wanted to do is tell me to be careful. Well, it's like that when you open a distillery or a winery. You're going to get a lot of advice from people who really don't know what they're talking about or whose best days were 15 years ago. So you got to be careful who you're listening to. So what today is all about is the survival guide. I've created the survival guide. It's not really a book. I'm giving it to you today in video form and slide form. But this is the key to surviving and thriving, is to be knowledgeable and well prepared. My mission in life and that of my team is to empower as many wineries and craft distilleries and breweries and ready to drink producers around the world with the stuff they need to be successful in this crazy competitive environment. So what's in the guide? What am I going to go through today? Well, I'm going to go through exactly what I promised when you signed up for this thing. We're going to spend most of our time on the top 3 priorities of how to deploy your funds, people, and time. We're going to get into keys to thriving in the 3-tier system, which is like one of the most requested things we get around here. We're going to cover a few common pitfalls, which if you stick around for the pitfalls slide, it will pay for this whole hour you're dedicating to this seminar. It is gold. It is money. It is absolutely going to save you a fortune avoiding these pitfalls. We'll talk about the keys to accelerating sales and revenue, which is really straightforward and simple, but a lot of people miss it. And we're going to talk about key performance indicators. Now, I am going to have Q&A at the end, but if you have a burning question, don't wait. Go ahead and stick it in the chat. I'll monitor the chat here and there, and the Q&A also to make sure that we're not falling behind. Oh, Hannah, it looks like you've cleared through the open questions. Thank you. Thank you so I'm so grateful for Hannah. Thank you. Okay, so why would you listen to me? Okay, why would you give up your time on a Friday afternoon or Friday morning and listen to me? Well, this is what I do, and it's all I do. I don't know a lot, but I know how to sell wine and spirits based on 38 years of doing it across the whole country. There are a few people who know as much about every state in the country, and when it comes to selling wine and spirits, as someone like me. There are others, but they're working for some other brand. I am available for hire. I'm a subject matter expert on the use of technology, and so is my team. And I'm not alone. I have a whole team of incredibly talented people who know their stuff, from CRM to Facebook advertisers, email marketing to content creation, copywriting. We have a wealth of knowledge in our team. I've worked for big distributors like Glaciers before they were Southern Glaciers. I've worked for big companies like St. Michel Wine Estates, Constellation Brands, Fetzer Vineyards. I regularly write and speak at industry events. And so, and many of you are on the call who already know me and are actually clients of mine, so you can vouch and attest. But let's dive right into the program. I have a lot to cover, and I'm going to cover it quickly, but don't worry. You're going to get a copy of this recording, and so you can always go back and review the parts that you missed. You're also welcome to take screenshots anywhere you want. Okay, so with that, I'm diving in. If you have a burning question, put it in the chat, or the Q&A will find it and get your answers. So these are the top 3 priorities that I promised. Probably going to be a surprise to a lot of you, and that's good, because things have changed, and if you're not aware of the new things you should be doing, it's good that you showed up today. We're going to talk quite a bit about controlling your own destiny. That's really like the central message I have for new brand owners. You've got to be careful about what you outsource. I don't mean just you personally. As a business owner, I know that this is a real problem of mine. I tend to work in my business and not on it. I try to do too many things myself instead of enabling my team. I know what that's like. So when I say control your own destiny, I'm talking about you and your team. Email marketing is your #1 sales tool, bar none. I hope to convince you of that today. It's the lowest cost, highest return, easiest to measure. You don't need a marketing degree to use it. And the third priority is focusing on what's scalable. There's just nobody else talking about this. Well, I'm going to talk about it today, and I hope it will benefit you greatly. So let's jump right into controlling your own destiny. I'm going to spend a little bit of time on this so that we can really get this into your heads. And by all means, let me know if you have questions. This is your new mantra. If it's important to you, you're going to have to do it yourself. And by yourself, I mean your team, someone in your employ, someone who works with you on your team. That is the only way a small brand can survive. The only way a new brand can survive is you've got to control your own destiny. You cannot leave it in the hands of others like distributors, ad agencies, brokers. All of these have a place. But when it comes to making sales, that's where I draw the line. That's the big differentiator. When it comes to making sales, that's on you. And the burden has shifted from what used to be distributor's responsibility. It has now shifted to producer's responsibility. And you must accept this and embrace it. This little pyramid is super, super useful. If you're a new brand and you're trying to optimize your sales, the order in which you do things is critical. You must fully optimize the sales that you make at your distillery or your winery, at your facility, through events and foot traffic, etc. All the sales that you make on site with your wine clubs and all of that must be optimized. Now, you might think you're already optimizing it for it, and you might not be. There's things that you could do, but that is the baseline. You've got to make sure that's fully covered before you go to the next level up, which is optimizing for direct to consumer, for e-commerce sales. Goes for spirits as well as wine. We still run into lots of distilleries that have yet to realize that you can sell DTC, and there are several different ways to do it. But only when these two first foundational things are taken care of should you be looking at the 3-tier. And for a lot of you new brands, it might be a year or two before you go into 3-tier, because you have a lot of work to do to build traction and make a success story. My bullet point here says, get traction in your home market first, build a success story. If you take the time to do that, when you go to enter your second state and your third state, or your second market and third market, you will have a success story. The doors will open much easier for you. You need to prove there's a demand for your products before you're going to be taken seriously outside of your home market. So this is huge. This might seem overly simplistic, but a lot of people just really don't grasp this. They go straight to trying to find a distributor because they think that's the right thing to do. Again, if this is causing you angst or questions, pop it in the chat. Another aspect of controlling your own destiny is building your own CRM database of first-party data. Now, ever since Apple and now Google is getting involved in the privacy issues, it's more important than ever for wine and spirits producers to have their own first-party data. It needs to be in a database like HubSpot or Salesforce.com or some other type of database where you can have all the information you need about the people and the businesses that you want to do business with. This is for direct to consumer and B2B. And the way you do this is your website forms have to be optimized. You need to understand how to do lead gen campaigns. You've got to really lean into content marketing and search engine optimization. All of these things come under the heading inbound marketing, which I'm going to talk about in a second. But don't gloss over this. This is so important for you to know who your customers are, where are they, which products of yours are they using, how are they using them. This is a key to you controlling your own destiny. You cannot skip over this part. Another aspect, and this is an important one, and if you've listened to any of my stuff before, this is a repeat. Part of controlling your own destiny is to understand who your ideal customer is and what it is they want. Because to be successful, you have to make the customer the hero of your story, not you and your brand. If I were to pop onto a lot of your websites right now and look at your websites, I could tell right away who the hero of your story is, and it's not the customer. If you want to have success as a small brand, if you're a new brand starting out and you want to be able to keep pace with much larger competitors, you want to do the most with the least, this is one of the most important things you can do. It's an easy fix. Go get this book, Building a Story Brand by Donald Miller, and read it cover to cover. I've recommended this book to many, many people, and I have no affiliate link with them or anything else. I just love the book. And so does everyone on my team. But the people I've recommended this book to universally have come back and said, Ben, that was great. I'm loving this book. So it's important in your messaging, and your messaging is on your website. Your messaging is in your emails. Your messaging is in social media posts. Your messaging needs to be oriented towards the customer and treating them as the hero, giving them what they want. I don't know what you're expecting when you showed up today, but this is the stuff you need to grow your brand if you're a small brand or a new brand or both. This is absolute key to controlling your own destiny. So let's talk about this inbound marketing thing. Now, this is an area where I've personally and my team, been spending a lot of time and money understanding and implementing the practices of inbound marketing. But in a nutshell, this is the big contrast. Everyone's familiar with outbound marketing. It's uninvited interruption marketing. It's what most advertising is. Screaming about your brand, the attributes of your product, pushing out content that people don't want, promoting. It's all just noise. Please don't do that with your small brand. You have such a huge advantage if you switch to inbound marketing, which is all about attracting customers with valuable content and experiences tailored to them. Now, this takes some work, but man, is it worth it. If you want to really do the most with the least, which most new entrepreneurs do, you must master inbound marketing. This is where you form those connections. This is where you solve problems for people. Approach your marketing like this. approach your email marketing, your social media, and your website content like this, and you will be able to control your own destiny. Now, I want to pause for just a minute because I've thrown a lot of stuff at you in just a few minutes. Let me hear from you in the chat if you have a question, but also let me hear if in the chat, does this make sense? Do you have any aha moments? Is there a little bit of a, awakening going on? Are you learning something new? I would love to hear from you while I take a sip of water. Okay, there might be a little lag in the chat. We got a couple in the Q&A. Okay, Bobby asked for a specific example of inbound marketing. Yes, so if you go to my website, salisburycreative.com or winestimulator.com, you'll see me giving stuff away. You'll see me educating. You'll see me offering things of value. I'm not trying to sell anybody anything. I'm trying to give value and create a relationship. I'm trying to be helpful. So what the calls to action on your website are an example. Offering free guides, checklists, how-tos. These are called lead magnets. These are extremely valuable for inbound marketing. And just making sure that when people visit your website, there's things that you're directing them what path to take, because it's a spirit of helpfulness. So Bobby, think about what would look like a spirit of helpfulness to you. Many of you are selling, very niche categories like mead or, vodka from Iceland. This is really good news, but it's good because people need a little bit of educating, and you can provide that education. It's not always about talking about the features and benefits of your brand. We've got a couple of questions about inbound versus outbound. And I hope these examples are useful to you. The best thing you can do is go to winesalesstimulator.com and look at the spirit of that website. Look how it's all about giving away videos, giving away articles, little things here and there to download. And most of the things that you get from me that you download, you have to give me your email address in exchange for this. This is how I grow my email list. This is how I grow my customer base. But I'm doing it in the spirit of giving stuff away, not pushing stuff out on people. So it's about attracting customers. That's what this is about. So would love to talk the rest of the time about this, but just start Googling inbound marketing, and HubSpot is a great place to read articles. I have to see one more quick question here. How do you quantify when the time is right to bring on a new market versus service your existing markets? Well, that is such a great question. A lot of it has to do with your capacity. If you're selling everything that you are able to make right now locally, that's a good sign that you're probably ready for some new markets. The main point of this is have a success story. So I guess another way to answer this, Sam, is if you've got a success story to tell, now you're ready to go to another market. The new market isn't going to provide that success story. You've got to provide it in your home market first. Okay, I'm going to move on. Now let's talk about email. This is so important, and it's a real mind blower for people, because when most people hear about email, they think about newsletters or blasts, email blasts. This is not modern email marketing. Email marketing came on the scene in the mid-90s. Newsletters were really popular. Everybody was signing up for them. Well, this isn't the mid-90s. This is this is 2022. The sophistication, a level of sophistication with email software tools and the marketing strategies behind them have changed so much. So you've got to be on board with this, and let me whet your appetite for it today. You need to think of email marketing as your number one sales tool. It's how you're going to put offers in front of people. It's how you're going to nurture relationships. It is how you're going to control your own destiny. It's so important. It's the lowest cost, biggest bang for your buck of anything you could do. It's super easy to measure the ROI, open rates, click rates, how many people bought when you sent out your last promotional email. Email marketing isn't really about newsletters and blasts at all. It's about, highly segmented, highly personalized, and in many cases, automated form of marketing. If you dive into email marketing and you commit to being the best in class in the wine and spirits industry on leveraging email marketing to grow your sales, you're going to be so far ahead of everybody else. Because a lot of the big brands still don't understand how to use this. Some of the biggest wineries out in Napa They only use email for wine club pickups and monthly newsletters. That's it. That's good news for you, the small brand producer, because you can run circles around them with your highly segmented, fully automated email marketing. The best thing about email marketing is it allows you to speak directly to your consumers all over the country, all over the world. It also allows you to speak to trade buyers all over the country. This is absolutely important, and you must invest time into it. Now, I don't have time to make you an expert in email marketing today, but I do want to give you this. If you want to screenshot it, be my guest. You're going to get a copy of this video, so you can always go back and look at this later. But let me rip through this really fast. Do everything on this list. Take this list today and check off the things you're already doing, and get busy on the things that are not checked. This is going to transform your ability to sell. Multiple sign-up forms on your website, and consider a pop-up. In a minute, I'm going to show you some really good examples. Examples are so useful. You've got to provide compelling reasons to join your list. I'm so sorry, but when I go to your website and it says join our email list, and that's it, why in the world would I do that? You've got to give compelling reasons to join your email list. This is a way for trade buyers to identify themselves. You must provide a way for trade buyers to identify themselves. You have trade buyers visiting your website, and you don't even know it. But when trade buyers see that you have a trade-only email list and they can sign up for it, they're going to do it. Use software dedicated to the task. Now, I know a lot of you, especially wineries, you're tied up in your e-commerce software, which has, quote, I'm using air quotes here, CRM as part of it. And it does most of those tools do a poor job of CRM and an even poorer job of email marketing. If all you want from that tool is to send out wine club pickups and announcements, then fine. But you'll never be able to do the kind of email marketing that you can do with tools like MailChimp and HubSpot. We use HubSpot. We're huge fans. If you ever have a question about these things, let us know. You need to set up an automated welcome email. If I go to your website right now and I join your email list, I need to get a welcome email automatically, and it needs to be done in a very classy, non-salesy way. I have some good examples of this too. You need to segment your list. You can't have too many segments, too many tags. You've got to tailor because you're going to tailor your communication to the specific preferences that people have. You need to routinely purge cold subscribers. I know it's hard because we get hung up on how many subscribers do I have. We have this set up so that it's automated. If somebody doesn't open anything from us in a 30-day period, they automatically get an email asking them, do you still want to be on the list? It's okay if you want to take a break. It's really, really important to purge cold subscribers. Create automated email nurture sequences so that people know they have an automated series of things that you're sending out once they join your email list. And you can have different sequences for different actions that people take. I know if this is new to you and a little overwhelming, just commit to going and learning more. This is your checklist for how to do this right. Learn how to leverage lead ads. We have tons of information on this. And in promo emails, use a jab, 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 right hook approach. This comes from Gary Vaynerchuk. Don't send out a promo email every time you send out a promo email. Send out emails that give something of value, that educate, that entertain. Every third or fourth email can be a promo email where you're asking for the sale. But if all you do is ask for the sale, when you send out an email, you're not going to leverage this powerful tool. So there's a checklist for success. This list alone is worth your time showing up today. Let me just pause for a couple of questions. Greg asked you, how do you find out what interests are as valuable to your consumers? That's such a great question. You really need to spend a lot of time online, on social media. Make a few guesses about what you think your customers are interested. Do some Google searches. Spend a lot of time on social media, looking at what people say. You need to be following people on social media. And, it isn't a waste of time to spend time on social media, but this is where it would go. Like my clients are wineries and distilleries. So if I want to find out what's important to wineries and distilleries, I go hang out where they hang out. I look at the conversations they're having. I see what questions they're asking, what struggles they have, and all of that. So I'm happy to help Greg with some more information about that. But I will tell you this, what most wine consumers want, they want experiences. They want to feel like an insider. They want to live vicariously. They want to live, they want to be around your winery, even if they can't get there physically. They want to know what's going on. They want to see pictures of what's happening in the vineyard. The customer is the hero of the story, not your brand. So show them what it would be like if they were visiting. Show pictures of other people enjoying your tours and your facilities. I hope that helps, Greg. Terrence asks, how do you know when it's time to get PR involved? Oh, what another great question. So I believe PR should be laid on top of an already strong business case. If you already have a lot of sales and you're maxing out your tasting room and you're maxing out DTC and you're building new distribution in the broad market, PR and communications, which I'm a huge believer of from my 12 years at St. Michel, is all about putting some top spin on the distribution you have, helping with pull through. So I would wait until I had distribution and then I would bring in the budget for PR. That would be my advice. Greg asked, do you have to spend hours writing articles and creating content? Another great question. No, you don't. That is one thing you might want to outsource, but you can do it really inexpensively. You have to guide people about what you want them to write for. But that's such a good question. And Hannah is capturing these questions for me. That's such a good question. It deserves a separate webinar or discussion about how to create content when you're short on people and short on time. I think that would be a great one. But no, Greg, you don't. And there's hacks. There's ways around that. Jenna asks, what is a great example of a brand doing the hero story right? Hannah, would you please make a note of that question? Because I'm going to answer that question, but I can't think of one off the top of my head. But we do have some good examples, Jenna. And since you registered for this webinar, Jenna, I have your email address. So I'll make sure you get the answer to that question. Okay, so let's look at some real life examples. I love this example from Dos Gabachos, a brand new brand. I mean, brand new, squeaky new, just launched this summer. In their website form, they have a way for people to identify who they are. I'm a mezcal lover, an enthusiast, or I'm a restaurant, a retailer, hotel, bar, restaurant, or other member of the trade. This is really, really smart. You need to do this too. What does it cost you to do this? Literally nothing. And it can really transform. If you start today doing this, you will be able to build up a nice list of trade buyers that you can then form a relationship with. These are 3 best-in-class examples of reasons to join an email list. I love this one in the middle. Don't miss a drop. Get in on all the exclusive email-only sales, surprise discounts, special features, and more, especially around the holidays. What a beautiful, elegant way to entice me to join your email list. You can screenshot these if you want. I have many, many more examples. Well, we do have some questions from the chat as well. Let me just pop them up there. Thank you, Hannah. I don't want to miss these questions. There's so many good questions. How do you recommend forming connections? Wow, that's a great question too. I would do the way I do it, which is I never send an email to anyone that doesn't include something of value. I always make the point of the email giving and helping information. People appreciate that. People like it when you're not always trying to sell them stuff. So you form connections over time by being highly personalized and highly segmented in your communication. That's a short answer to that. In selling wine, even high-end wines, I sometimes feel I'm not necessarily solving a problem. Now, that is such a good question. Yeah, the problem, right, is a little hard to nail down, but here's some of the common problems that wine consumers have. I'm having guests over for dinner. What should I serve? How many different wines should I serve? Questions around entertaining are a big problem that you can solve. I've been drinking Chardonnay for years. I'd like to try something else, but I don't know where to go. Where would I start? You know, helping people understand their journey, their wine lover journey. We have a client running an ad. This is Maximo Mezcal. They're offering they're showing bourbon and whiskey drinkers how to appreciate mezcal. It's marvelous. It's elegant. It's very generous. This is a great way to solve a problem. What problem are they solving? Well, the problem of what else is out there that I should be trying. What else might I be interested in that I'm missing? These are just some examples of those problems. So I hope that is helpful. What great questions. Okay. I'm not going to get through my stuff because there's so many great questions. Let me forge ahead. Now I asked permission from my friend Greg at Wild Blossom Meadery. Could I pick on him a little bit and use him as a guinea pig example. When you go to Wild Blossom Meadery, you are hit in the face with this pop-up, and it's a good one, offering a 15% discount by entering your phone number. So clearly they're going to be using text messaging as part of their marketing. Genius. The problem is you really need to wait 15 seconds before you show it. Don't show it when they first get there. You know what's going to happen? They're going to bounce. So a best practice of, I love pop-ups. I use pop-ups. But two best practices: wait 15 seconds and only show it to new visitors. Don't show your pop-ups to returning visitors. It's just going to annoy them. So once again, you've paid for your time here today with these two great tips. I have a real hard time finding where to sign up for Wild Blossom's list. So that's an easy fix too. And the last thing is, I got a great email verification, which is really smart, double opt-in, but then that was it. I never got a welcome email, and I should have gotten automated welcome email. So thank you, Greg, for generously letting me pick on you. But these are the kind of things that are within your control and are fixable and will make a big difference. And I love this. This is my last example here for email acquisition. I love this little sign up form. Now, this is a pop-up on Happy Raptor's website. Get news from Happy Raptor Distilling in your inbox only sometimes, not too much and not spammy stuff, only good stuff that's actually useful. This is a fantastic example of inbound marketing, a spirit of helpfulness, reassuring people you're not going to take advantage of them. And notice how many fields they want you to fill out. Just one. That's the best practice. You can get the birth date and the zip code and the last name later. Just lower the bar, make it as easy as possible to join your email list. You have plenty of opportunities. And don't you just love the call to action button? Genius, genius, genius. Friends forever. I want to be your friend forever. Okay, let's change gears here and talk about what's scalable. I'm going to try to press through some of this material and come back to the question. So Hannah's monitoring it. We won't forget your question, and I'll stay on as long as I need to answer all questions. If you have to go at the top of the hour or anytime, I'm going to send you a link to the recording so you can always come back, but please hang out here for a little longer if you can. Let's talk about focusing on what's scalable. Now, let me define this for you. This is about increasing sales without increasing time, money, or payroll. Now, as a business owner, I totally embrace this idea. I don't like to do anything that requires my physical presence because I can't scale it. People ask me all the time, when are you coming to Florida? Or next time you're in Chicago, let's have lunch. I never do any of that, partly because I traveled 41 times a year for 17 years, and I have no interest in getting on a plane. But a lot of it is I just don't have time. I can't scale my physical presence, and neither can you. So I put together a handy little chart. And once again, this is just gold. This is absolute gold, because most of you are breaking this rule right and left because you don't know what else to do. And that's not a knock. It's just reality. Anything that requires your physical presence or the physical presence of someone on your team is not scalable. Does that mean it's bad and you shouldn't do it? No, I'm just saying it's not scalable. So you need to seriously augment those things with things that are scalable. Here's what's not scalable: riding in a car with a distributor, especially if you had to pay for a hotel rental car and airfare to do it. In-store tasting demos. I know all about liquid to lips, and that's really the best way to get people into your brand. But people walking up randomly to a tasting table while you hand them a glass of something, that's just the level of intention is really low. Wine dinners, they're great for selling 2 or 3 cases of wine. And maybe wine dinners might work if you're collecting email addresses, but again, not scalable. Most trade tastings, any kind of traveling, not scalable. If you're spending money on time on these things, you really need to supplement them severely with things that are scalable. Things on the left: organic social media, email marketing, paid social, SEO. It's probably one of the best things you could do to scale the traffic to your website. Lead generation, webinars, virtual tastings, and direct-to-consumer sales. DTC sales, I love them because they're completely, infinitely scalable. And you don't even have to get out of bed to do it. So this is serious. So those are my 3 top priorities. Now let's talk about winning in the 3-tier system. And I will pause again in another 5 minutes or so to take more questions, but I want to press through this. There's a lot of misunderstanding around 3-tier because there was a time when having a good distributor in a market was all you needed to dramatically accelerate your sales. It was a form of scaling because you had all these other people doing it. But because there's so many more brands today, like I showed you at the top of the hour, and there's so fewer distributors, it's just not possible for distributors to do what they used to do. Remember my pyramid from a few slides earlier. You shouldn't be going into 3-tier until you're fully optimized these other two things. And keep in mind, and for many of you, this will be the first time you've heard it, there's 3 ways to play the 3-tier game. There's the traditional brick and mortar distributor, which everyone on this call already knows about. But there's also digital 3-tier, which can take you into 10 states without leaving your office. And then the wine and spirits direct piece. So let me just run through these. By the way, on winesalesstimulator.com, I have this great video called The Role of a Wine Distributor. When I posted it to LinkedIn a few weeks, 4th of July weekend, it was the holiday weekend. I didn't know if anyone would pay any attention. It was viewed 5,000 times. And I suggest you make it 5,001. Go watch that video. You'll find it on winesalesstimulator.com. So these are the expectations of a traditional brick and mortar distributor. Yes, these are the things you can expect. Hold inventory in your warehouse, deliver to the accounts that you and your team have sold to, and potentially match your efforts. These are the things you cannot expect. For them to go out and sell for you and build new distribution, those days are gone. No amount of education or training or cajoling is going to make that difference. And the reason is not apathy. It's because they got too much stuff to sell. Thousands and thousands of SKUs just like yours. And they're just overwhelmed. So you must recognize it and you must adjust. Now, I say, like a broken record, I give this advice to everyone who talks to me. I would say, a little more than half don't believe me. And so if that's you, if you find this really skeptical, I'll see you in a few years when you've figured this out on your own. In the meantime, if you're still with me, I want to tell you what you can do, because you can leverage this tier if you know what you're doing. In my advertising for today's webinar, I promise to share the #1 mistake that new brands make, and this is it: expecting your distributors to sell for you. More states does not equal more sales. Changing distributors won't help. Moving from a big distributor to a small distributor where they have a smaller portfolio won't help, because the ratio of salespeople to brands is the same. So this really is important. I know what I'm talking about. You know, people say, well, you work for Constellation Brands. No wonder you don't count on the distributor. Well, let me tell you something. At Constellation Brands, we had our own sales team inside the distributor that sold nothing but Constellation Brands and still couldn't make the goal. So believe me, it is no advantage. The modern distributor is overwhelmed, can't do it. I will get off that soapbox. So if you don't know about digital 3-tier, you need to run, not walk, to libdiv.com. Check them out. There's 10 states where you can do legally compliant order fulfillment to restaurants and retailers. And they're adding more states all the time. This didn't exist 5 years ago, or they just celebrated their 5-year anniversary. Prior to that, there was no such thing as digital 3-tier. A lot of people have tried it and said it didn't work because they thought people would just show up. You still have to market your brand. You still have to drive traffic to your pages on LibDiv. But this could be a game changer for a small brand. And if you're a new brand and you haven't yet launched yet, once you've gone through your DTC and your own facility and you're ready for 3-tier, do digital first, please. This is a game changer. And then I'm going to take a break for questions right after this, and we only have a few more slides. So please hang in there with me. How we doing? Yeah, we still have the same number of people. That's awesome. Wine and spirits direct. Why more people don't do this is beyond me. And if you're a small brand just starting out, this is gold. Should be one of your secret weapons. Does anyone recognize any of the brands in the photo on this slide? I don't. And I've been in the business 38 years. That's because that's part of the design of Wine and Spirits Direct. These big chains, and it was made popular by Total Wine, they go and they find direct relationships with wineries and distilleries all over the world. They use clearing distributors to cut out the expensive middleman, because all they're going to do is bring the product legally into the state and put it on their shelves and stack it on their floor, put it in the cold box, put it in the flyer. Allows them to make a much fatter profit margin of 50 or 60%. This is called the Total Wine effect. Total Wine is the master of this. You go into Total Wine, You see many brands you recognize priced really well. And as soon as you reach for one, you know what happens. The salesperson is right there trying to convince you to switch to one of their winery direct brands where they make much, much more profit. The other part of the Total Wine effect is it's caused all of Total Wine's competitors to want to go out and do the same. So think of all the big major retailers around the country, retail chains. They all have their own wine direct and spirits direct programs, and they're hungry for more, and the small producer could be the ticket. And here's the key, the last bullet point on here: do this before assigning traditional distributors. Because once you assign a traditional brick and mortar distributor for a particular state, you can't do winery direct or spirits direct deals in that state. Now, I've got a great video that shows you how to do this. So I won't have time to point to where it is today. Send me an email. I'll flip it over to you. Okay, before I talk about pitfalls, let me just check how we doing here in the chat. I know I've gone really fast. You can go back and watch the recording. Sam asks, how do you know when it's the right time to bring on a new market? Oh, we covered that, Sam. Chef Todd, thank you for sharing a story with Jenna. Look at the power of community happening right now. Dee asks, how do you recommend forming connections? I think we covered that, Dee, I think so. In selling wine, even high. Yes, okay. So Hannah, poor Hannah, she's probably screaming into the computer screen. Ben, scroll down, scroll down.
Start with Nick K's question at 11:33 or 1:33.
Thank you, Hannah. I would be lost without her. Okay, Nick, how does email marketing compare to Facebook and Google ads for e-commerce marketing? Well, it's not an either or. You have to do email marketing whether you do advertising or not. I mean, it is compulsory. It is the baseline. It's the foundation of your marketing. How you grow your email list, a big part of how you grow your email list is Facebook and Google ads and what you're doing with your website. So SEO drives more traffic to your website. And if your website is optimized for enrolling new email subscribers, you can see how that flows organically. And when you use ads to drive traffic to your website, you're also filling that funnel up too. So they work hand in hand, Nick. Great question. Thank you. I'm going to go tell my wife she did all of it and we'll be excited. Awesome. Awesome. Well, it's just such a great example. Chef Todd has a question. Ben, RDC wanted us to use LibDib in Texas, but the process just doesn't seem to work. Yeah, Texas is tricky. Texas is a little bit tricky. And Chef, I might have to take that question with you offline. I don't know entirely. I just know that Texas has some weird quirks that the other 9 states don't. And part of why they want you to use LibDib is they want to get the orders first. They don't mind fulfilling the order, but they want to see the order first. They don't want to pull in inventory and have it sit and collect dust and tie up cash while they wait for someone to order one of your things. LibDib allows from the time they place, if a restaurant places an order in LibDib, they don't expect immediate delivery that day or the next day. They expect it in a couple of days. That gives RNDC time to pull in the product. That might be my best answer, and we can talk more about it if you want. Mark has a question. What if we're with a small distributor that doesn't have many retail accounts? Well, are you expecting the distributor to sell for you? Because if you're not expecting the distributor to sell for you, it doesn't matter how many retail accounts they have. That's the trap. They're not going to sell for you. They're just going to deliver to the accounts that you sell for. And if you go out and sell a bunch of accounts in their market, then you can go back and ask them to match your efforts. But this is one of the problems with a small distributor. They don't have the reach. They can't cover all of the accounts. But just be careful where, so this is a good point, Mark. If the retailers don't like dealing with small distributors generally because they don't deliver every single day and they don't, they have their own limitations. So if you're planning on getting into chains or pursuing chains, then you're going to want to gravitate towards the larger distributors. That's true. I hope that answers your question, Mark. Greg has a question. If you could self-distribute in your state, is a better choice than using a distributor? How would you handle delivery? Yeah, I'm not 100% sure how to handle the logistic part, but there are a lot of Texas wineries that do this, Greg. And the key is building the relationships with restaurants and retailers in your immediate area first, because the spirit of wanting to support local wineries and distilleries is pretty strong, and you can tap into that. So I'm happy to come back to you with more details about that. But you could be building your relationships with trade buyers, both on and off premise, chain and independent right now. You have a brand and a product that has enormous potential in Texas. So I think that people are going to want to know you personally. They're going to want to know you about your brand. They're going to want to know you, Greg. So I think that's really smart. Nate asked, from my perspective, set up on LibDib is one thing, cracking the wall of buyers. Yeah. So here's where inbound marketing comes in, and email marketing. You have to track them to you. When I did this, when I put out the registration page for today's webinar, I had 120 people register for today's webinar. 120. Most of them I'd never heard of. No offense, but I'd never heard of your brand before you signed up for the webinar. I just grew my email list by 120 new subscribers. I now have 120 new people to build a relationship with. And so that's what it looks like, Nate, for LibDib. If you have a list of 1,000 trade buyers that you can call upon and let them know, hey, I'm now on LibDib. Hey, I just put a new product on LibDib. Hey, we have, we just reduced the price at the end of vintage sale for the next 30 days. Click here for a sample. You use email marketing to move product off the LibDib platform. And so that requires expertise in email marketing. I hope that helps. Oh man, we have so many questions. Okay, I really have to press on. I'm going to come back to the questions and to the end. I'm so sorry. This is great. Lots of engagement. And most of you are still with me. So here's some common pitfalls. Paying for new distribution. Please don't do that, because whatever distribution you pay for is temporary. Here today, gone tomorrow. They put it in place long enough to pocket the money, and then they flip it out for something else. This is a whole business. I promise you from my own experience, this is a real thing. Be careful. Don't pay money. Don't let the distributor talk you into it. Distributors will want you to do this because it's part of how they supplement the pay for their people, is relying on just suppliers to pay new distribution incentives. Be really careful of that. Lowering the price to make a sale. I have a great video called Lowering the Price to Make a Sale is for Cowards. You do not need to lower your price to make a sale. So don't let anyone tell you to do that. Like the distributor, hey, I can get you this by the glass. If you can get this down to $5, don't do it. We're not here to give stuff away. We're here to make money. Price is only an issue in the absence of value. Here's another common pitfall. More steaks do not equal more sales. They just don't. Because they can't sell for you. And don't fall into the product knowledge trap, thinking, I just need more product knowledge. My salespeople need more product knowledge. If I could just educate my distributor on our products, they would sell more. That is a trap. Don't fall into it. Here's another promise I made when I promoted this webinar. What is the key to accelerating sales? And this is it. Narrow the focus of your sales activity to only the most attractive and responsive customers. You're going to have to do your homework. You're going to have to do research. Not all customers are equal. This goes for consumers and trade. The 80-20 rule is real. And I have lots of great content and videos about how to leverage 80-20. But this is a key. When you're a small team with small resources, this is key. Keep your focus narrow. Fish where the fish are. Not all accounts are equal. Not all customers are equal. This is gold. And this is a great place to start. I have a video on winesalesstimulator.com, how to create a list of target accounts. Get this video and watch it. You'll be grateful that you did. We're coming near the end here. Key performance indicators for DTC. I won't read through all of these. You can screenshot it or watch the recording, but these are the things you should be measuring. Are there other measurements? Yes, these are the key ones. And these first have to do with email. You must face this boldly. And if you haven't heard of analytics, check them out, because they have great resources, and they're just a great resource general to help you with your data, especially around DTC. KPIs for the free tier. Some of them you're familiar with: depletions, points of distribution. But what about points of distribution within your target accounts, or sales per point of distribution, also known as velocity? You should be measuring how of the key accounts you want to be in, what percentage of them are you in? That's penetration. You should be measuring retention. How many people are using your product month after month after month after month? They're using it, they're pouring it by the glass, or they have it in a cocktail because they love it and they know you. You need to be measuring these things. Okay, so quick recap here. Here's what you learned today. These are the 3 priorities for you. If you choose not to believe me, maybe I'll see you in 6 months or so. You'll be back, because I promise you this is how you grow your small brand, your new brand. Control your own destiny. Stop relying on other people to make sales. Email is your number one priority for marketing and sales. And whatever you do, it needs to be scalable. You also learn the keys to surviving and thriving in the 3-tier system. You learn the number one mistake, which is expecting your distributor to sell. You learn the most common pitfalls to avoid. You learn the key to accelerating sales and revenue, and you learned about KPIs. But you know what? There's just what you saw today is just a tip of the iceberg. You don't know what you don't know. And you might think you can figure all this out on your own. Most of us didn't get where we are on our own. We needed a mentor. We needed a guide. I've been doing this for almost 40 years, and I've helped more than 60 companies just like yours accelerate their sales. My team and I, by the way, whenever I say I mean my team. You are invited to join us. This is why we created the Wine Sales Stimulator. I'm so excited to share this brand new program with you. And let me just run through it real quick. There's no other program out there that gives you the classrooms and the coaching and the community to learn how to do all this stuff. Everything I just showed you today and a whole lot more. All the questions that came up in the chat and the Q&A, we have answers to all that stuff. And if we don't, we'll get the answers for you. This program is designed, this group coaching program is designed to help you sell more. You'll have access 24/7 and it's updated constantly. These are the 12 classrooms. Learn how to optimize your website, all about email marketing, CRM, lead generation, DTC, everything that a brand owner could need to accelerate their sales. We put it all together. Inside each of these classrooms, it looks like this. It's a whole series of training videos, documentation, case studies, how-tos. It's all self-paced, continuously updated. And if you don't see what you need, you just ask and we'll create it. We've just in the last few weeks, we've created stuff for members who ask for stuff. We also have weekly live coaching. Nobody has time for 3 hours every week of coaching, but if you wanted to get coaching on a specific topic here that you see on the right, you could submit a question. And if you can't show up for the call live, we record all the calls. We'll answer your question on the call and record it, and you can watch the playback. So every single week, you have the option to avail yourself of 3 hours of live coaching. Submit your questions, get answers. They're all recording. And lastly, the private community. It's just amazing what happens when you let other people talk to each other, share ideas, share contacts, share experiences. Maybe you know, some of the questions that come up today, I bet could easily be answered by other people on this call. You've got experiences going into Texas. You've got experience of success on LibDib. Just sharing amongst a private networking group is fantastic. And we have a private networking place. We do that called Mighty Networks. It's a closed community, but you can leverage other people's contacts. So it's a 12-month program. I want to invite you to join. Here's what one of our members has to say. Chef, thank you so much for this quote. While we're just getting acquainted with Ben and his amazing team, I've already learned new and counterintuitive techniques to grow our brand and target accounts to increase sales. I love that you put counterintuitive because the longer you've been in the business, the harder it is to understand the new things that you should be doing. So thank you, Chef Todd, for that. His biggest challenge is going to be implementing all this stuff. So what's the investment? You know, if you go to my website right now and you want to hire me to consult for you, these are my rates. They're published right there. It's public. It's no secret. So you could do this anytime and get personalized attention from me and my team. Most people want a lot more than that. And then the 8 years that I've been doing this, the average client has paid us $38,000 to consult for them one-on-one. Is it worth it? Who in their right mind would pay that? We have one client that's paid us more than $250,000 to consult for them. Why would they do that? Why on earth would someone pay us that kind of money? Well, because they got millions of dollars worth of value out of it. That's how this works. But you don't have to spend $38,000. You can get all of our resources, access to all of our people 24/7. We have 7 people on the team, all with incredible skills across a wide array of topics for $500 a month. Now, it's a 12-month commitment. That's true, but it's still an incredible deal. What can you get for $500 a month? Well, you can get a tank of gas a week for your Ford pickup. You can get half a plane ticket. I don't know if you've priced plane tickets recently, but you can't get a whole plane ticket for $500 unless you're in the cargo hold. Go out to dinner at Morton's. If you bring your own wine, you can eat there for $500 for 4 people. And $500 will buy you about 4% of one salespeople. So you and 40 of your friends can share a salesperson. How much wine would you need to cover? How much sales would you need to sell to cover the cost of a $500 a month program? Well, if your FOB is $90, 6 cases a month, incremental sales will cover the cost. Here's another one of our members, Janet and Scott Harvey of Scott Harvey Wines. After following Ben online for a year and taking advantage of his many free information webinars, I was excited to join his Wine Sales Stimulator program. By the way, that first sentence, that first paragraph encapsulates what inbound marketing is all about. Providing helpful information. People will eventually become your clients. The easy access to Ben and his team is one of her favorite things. She can do this on her own time when she wants to do it. And it's only been a few weeks and she's already got plans to put this stuff in place to grow their sales. I have a few incentives that I'm going to wrap up and finish with questions. If you pay in full, you save $1,000. So who doesn't want to save $1,000? It's really easy to sign up. Go to winesalestimulator.com/explore and just hit the sign up button. I have another bonus for you. If you enroll by midnight Monday, I will let you have a one-on-one strategy call with me, a $900 value. We'll dive deep into your specific situation and you'll walk away with a game plan you could start using. So this is a great deal. It's like getting your first 2 months free. So I'm going to go to the questions now. If you have questions about our program or questions about what you saw today, put them in the chat. I've lost some of you. Usually when I pitch my program, people jump off, but most of you are still here. So thank you for that. Let's get back to questions. Hannah, where should I pick up?
In the chat, start with D Robinson at 146, and then there's some in the Q&A too.
Awesome. Thank you. So if you have to go ahead. You're going to get a link to this recording and it will include the Q&A that I'm about to do. If you can stick with us and if you have more questions, please do. I'm going to stay on here till all the questions are done. Please send video to group. How soon to connect with Wine Spirits Direct before launch? You're going to have to learn how to do it. You have to learn how to do spirits and wine direct deals. And then you're going to have to start your outreach. So it does take time. It does take time, but it could be one of the most lucrative things you do to generate revenue for your brand. A good start is to watch the free video. If you send me an email, I will pop that video over to you. Great question. Here's Mark. You are welcome, Mark. Terrence, my man, Terrence. Terrence just launched a brand new brand, and I'm so excited about it. He is a young guy, breaking the molds, doing cool things. I am so excited about what you're doing, Terrence. And he asked today, what attracts trade buyers to your website and content? So trade buyers love to learn and to educate themselves. So you need educational things, advanced stuff. You need to be able to have a little section of your website for trade buyers where you give them, they want technical information about your products. They want to know, who else is using it. They want to know how should we use your product. So in your case, Terrence, you've got this amazing new vodka, unlike anything else on the market. They're going to need to know how it should be used in cocktails. So you do have to spend some time getting into the heads of the trade buyers to find out what their needs are, but they do have needs. So it's hard to swallow this hard to absorb this because most trade buyers are constantly fielding sales pitches all day. Well, if you're not pitching your products and you're trying to be helpful, it's not hard at all to find out the things that they want. I hope that helps, Terrence. Chef Todd, thanks so much. I've learned so much. I'll see you back in the classrooms. Thank you, Chef Todd. Eric, thank you. Great content. Eric's a believer. Appreciate you. Eric has put these things into practice before. Okay. Let me flip over to the Q&A. Great question from Vincent. The difference between LibDib and someone like Park Street. So Park Street does a lot of the things that LibDib does. They're more of they can handle importing, which LibDib does not do. They can handle warehousing, which LibDib doesn't really do. I mean, they have some small part of that, and they're getting better at it. What Park Street can't do is a restaurant can't go onto Park Street's website and buy 6 bottles of your vodka. They can't do that, but LibDib can. So just think of this: restaurants, retailers, hotels, bars. When you develop a relationship with them and they want to try your product or they want to bring in your product and put it on by the glass, all they do is go to LibDib and order it. And LibDib takes care of delivering it to them. So it's an online fully compliant 3-tier business exchange, a portal for placing orders. I hope that answers Vincent. John asks, isn't wine direct just a way to generate cash flow? It doesn't do anything for your brand because the retailer owns the brand. Well, that's certainly possible, but no, they don't own the brand. Typically, it's a way to supplement what you're already doing in your home market. So let's say, I'll give you a real life example. We had a client who was a Washington State winery. They had the capacity for about 50, 60,000 cases. They were selling everything they could at the winery. They were selling everything they could online, but they needed more sales, wanted more sales. So in addition to all those things, they started forming winery direct relationships with some major retailers around the country. Now we're talking truckloads of wine. The first order was a truckload, and it was sold in all of their stores in this particular state. And it was it would take them, you know how long it would take them to get that much distribution in this state that was, halfway across the country? It would take them forever. They're going to ride that relationship for a very, very long time. Now, if your plan is to go big and go national, then winery direct is probably not for you. So I'm not exactly sure what you're trying to do with your brand, John, but this is for smaller brands that need that extra revenue in places that it won't interrupt anything else that they're doing. If you're planning to build a big national brand, you don't want to go the wine or spirits direct route. So I hope that helps. Bobby asks, do you feel differently about wholesaler performance if you can negotiate a contract with metrics around pulling the brand? Good luck with that. Let me tell you about the Constellations contract. They had to have their own salespeople who sold nothing but our products. If they didn't make their goal at the end of the year, they had to write a check for the difference, and they still couldn't make the goal. Everyone thinks they've got the right solution to, lock the distributor into a certain level of performance. Well, it's going to come at a price, and here's the price. They're going to do whatever it takes to make that number, whether it's good quality distribution or not, whether it protects the pricing integrity of your brand or not. You put them in a box like that, you're going to be sorry, because they'll make your number, but it won't be profitable, and it'll destroy your brand equity. And whatever distribution they build is quite fleeting. And I'm happy to go deeper on this. And I'm sorry to be so harsh, but that's the reality. You shouldn't be in a state unless you're prepared to build distribution there yourself. Then you can turn around and ask the distributor to match your efforts. That's the best leverage you've got. Go ahead and get that contract and watch him make the number and destroy your brand in the process. I'm sorry to be so harsh, Bobby. Performing. Say this is a great comment. Or rewards for overperforming. Well, you better define performance properly, because if selling cases and building distribution is your idea of performance, they're going to do it in a way that's damaging to your brand equity. Trust me on this. I can show you many cases of where this is the case. Jenna asks, how do you prove or show there's a demand for your brand that speaks to distributors? Well, you show them how many people are on your email list, what your open rate is, how much you're selling up your DTC site, who you're selling to. Give them a breakdown of your customer base, who's buying these products. They want to know there's a demand for your products. So you've got many metrics that you can show them. But the distributor isn't going to build that brand for you. That's the challenge you're up against, Jenna. I hope that helps. And she also asks, how big do you have to be to play in the direct category? You don't have to be very big at all, because you could start with a single retailer. I'm in Northern Kentucky, right across the river from Cincinnati. Just a few blocks down is one of the largest liquor stores in the entire country, called Party Source. And if you had 500 cases of Merlot to sell them over the course of 6 months or a year, they would buy it. And so you just pick a smaller partner to do it with if you don't have a lot to sell. I've got plenty of wineries that sell that produce anywhere from 300 to several thousand cases a year that are dipping into the winery direct. Okay, so I think we're running low on the questions. Is there anything else I've missed, Hannah?
Not unless I missed it too. I think you got it all.
Okay. Well, thank you for hanging in there with me, everyone. And if you have other questions, feel free to send them on. Later today, I'm going to send the email out with the recording to this session. I want to thank you all for giving up your time this afternoon. I hope this has been valuable to you. Thank you very much, everyone.